Chapter 3. This is why we practice. Vesta arrived 23 minutes late. Gale knew because he had checked the clock only 9 times. Not that he had been waiting. He had merely been aware of the time in the way one becomes aware of dripping water, loose shutters, or nearby incompetence. At the 10-minute mark, he had assumed she was proving a point. At 15, he had decided she lacked discipline. At 20, he had been forced to acknowledge a far more irritating possibility. He was disappointed. The training room behind his study had once been a modest observatory, then a lecture chamber, then a space for any purpose requiring distance from breakable objects. This morning it served as a proving ground. Protective wards glimmered faintly across the walls, chalk circles marked the floor, shelves had been cleared of anything irreplaceable. Mostly. Gale stood in the centre with hands clasped behind his back, expression arranged into patient neutrality. Karlach had lasted 7 minutes before announcing she had promised Will help with the cart and kissing Vesta loudly on the temple on her way out. Astarion remained, naturally. He reclined on a velvet settee he had dragged in expressly for spectatorship, one ankle over the other, goblet in hand. "Some people court with sonnets," he said conversationally. "Some offer flowers or jewels." Vesta, sauntering in with no sign of apology, arched a brow. "These two prefer destruction." She gave him a side-eye sharp enough to shave with. "Honestly." Astarion was unbothered. "It's refreshing." Gale ignored them both with the concentration of a saint under siege. "You are late." "I am here." She had considered not coming. Considered it seriously, loudly, and at length. Then she had imagined his face when the hour passed and she failed to appear. That image alone had nearly kept her home. Nearly. Those are not identical concepts. They are in free societies. She wore the dark red bodice again, laced over black skirts, sleeves rolled carelessly to the forearm. Her hair was pinned up badly enough to look intentional. He noticed this against his will. Worse, he had noticed the absence of it before she entered. He resented that too. "Stand inside the circle," he said. She glanced at the chalk ring. "Looks cultish." "It is geometric." "Same spirit." "Inside." She stepped over the line with exaggerated caution, then immediately scuffed part of the circle with her heel. Gale closed his eyes. "Posture first," he said. Shoulders square. Steady breath. Focused air. Vesta mimicked him with insulting precision. "Yes, Professor." Hands aligned, mind serene. Hold the energy between. He stepped forward before thinking and adjusted the angle of her wrist with 2 careful fingers. Heat leapt through the contact. Ridiculous, he thought immediately. She was simply warm. She, meanwhile, went very still for reasons she intended to resent later. Boring. Astarion made a tiny, approving noise into his wine. "Channel slowly, do not rush. Magic bends to measured hush. Mine doesn't." The boom was immediate. A pulse of golden force burst from between her palms, launching 3 books from a shelf and slamming them into the far wall. One opened mid-air and began apologizing in Draconic. There was a pause. Astarion lifted his goblet. "This," he said, "is why we practice." Gale stared at the airborne book. "Did you see that?" "I saw literature attempt escape," said Astarion. Vesta grinned. "That was barely anything." "One more barely anything. And I shall become religious." He snapped his fingers. The apologetic book fell silent and landed spine first on the carpet. Again. He redrew the damaged circle with a flick of blue light. "Stand properly. Try for once to let me guide." She opened her mouth. "Do not answer that. Count to 4. Then release." She smiled. "I skipped to 7. The fireburst shattered a practice decanter, scorched a curtain, and blew Gale's notes across the room like startled birds. "No one skips to 7. I did. That was rhetorical arithmetic. It was exciting arithmetic. Astarion applauded lightly. I confess I'm on her side. Gale's jaw tightened. Focus, loosen, listen, brighten, breathe. Left, no, your other left. Burn, no, less burn. Pick a lane. I have several lanes. That seems inefficient. It is called adaptation. Then you do know the word. A spark ricocheted off the wall and singed the hem of Gale's robe. Astarion leaned toward the audience only he could see. Chemistry. Gale took one long breath, then another. He straightened. Once again, he said, with discipline, there is structure deep within. He moved more slowly this time, demonstrating the shape of the weave with patient hands, blue threads of arcane light winding between his fingers like braided water. Every force can learn restraint. The words were old companions, lecture room truths, safe truths. Then the next thought arrived uninvited. Can it? He had learned obedience. He had learned fear. He had learned how to become smaller and call it wisdom. Those were forms of control. Whether they were virtue remained unsettled. The thought arrived before he could stop it. His hands faltered by a fraction. He had called his own narrowing wisdom, had mistaken caution for virtue, had spent years becoming smaller in increasingly elegant ways. Can it? He heard himself say softly. Vesta's smirk faded. For the first time since entering the room, she looked not amused, not combative, but tired. Yes, she said quietly. Not everyone who tried to shape her had been cruel. That had almost made it worse. Some had called it help. Some had called it love. Some had sworn they only wanted her safe. Each request came dressed differently. Each meant the same thing. Less of you, please. The single word carried no triumph in it. Only history. Aunt Mara said chains kindly. Her father called them guidance. Teachers called it discipline. Friends called it concern. Always the same shape. Become less. The room felt suddenly too clear. Astarion, perceptive when it cost him nothing, went still. Gale looked at her properly. Not the sparks, not the posture, not the challenge. The bruise beneath the bravado. He had expected defiance. He had not expected grief. The distinction embarrassed him more than anger would have. Ah, there you are. He cleared his throat. Now begin. No lecture in it this time. Just invitation. Vesta blinked once as if the gentleness had startled her more than shouting would have. She inhaled, breathing slow. Hands steady. Light gathering carefully between her palms, keeping all the edges. The explosion was magnificent. Smoke burst upward. Chalk lines vanished. A window cracked. Gale's hair lifted dramatically backward. Silence. Then. Oops, said Gale. Vesta doubled over laughing. Astarion nearly dropped his goblet. This, he declared joyfully, is why I never volunteer. Gale coughed through smoke. Again tomorrow. Vesta straightened, wiping tears from her eyes. I'll be asleep. From somewhere in the house, faint as memory and twice as unwelcome, blue magic hummed against the wards. Tomorrow. Gale's expression darkened. Absolutely not, he muttered to the ceiling. Then immediately to Vesta. 10 o'clock, do not be late. She folded her arms. You need joy. You need training. We are not finished. Vesta turned first, still smiling too brightly. Gale recognized the tactic because he used it himself. When she reached the doorway, she did not look back. He did. "No," said Astarion, rising elegantly from the settee. "You have only just begun."
Some people court with sonnets. Some offer flowers or jewels. These two prefer destruction.
Honestly,
It's refreshing. Posture first, shoulder square, steady breath and focused air. Hands aligned, mind serene, hold the energy between.
boring.
Channel slowly, do not rush. Magic bends to measured hush.
Mine doesn't.
This is why we practice. Did you see that? Again. Circle drawn, stand inside. Try for once to let me guide. Count to 4, then release.
I skipped to 7.
No one skips to 7!
I did!
Focus, loosen, listen, brighten, breathe, burn, left, right. Why is this so hard? Chemistry. Once again with discipline, there is structure deep within. Every force can learn restraint. Can it?
Yes.
Now begin.
Breathing slow, holding light, keeping all the edges.
Oops. This is why we practice and why I never volunteer. Tomorrow! Absolutely not!
I'll be asleep.
You need training!
You need joy.
We are not finished! Oh no, you've only just begun!